So hi Chris, welcome onto the Red Review.
Good morning, Jeremy. Good morning, Mike.
How are you, sir?
Fine. Wonderful weather today, blue sky, so couldn't be better.
Boo!
Boo, yes, a little
We've got, down here in London, we've got mist, clouds, and it's a bit damp.
Okay.
There you go. So Chris, why don't you introduce yourself, tell us a bit about yourself and your business.
Yeah, sure. Who am I? Chris Kalin is just another bloke. I'm I'm the managing partner of CSK Management, a small company, very small company, focusing on bid and proposal management. So our goal, of course, is to help our clients win more business. And the way we do that through trainings and certification, through live deal coaching, and a bit of consulting when it comes to, processes, templates, and so on. And our focus has always been rather quality rather than quantity. We have never wanted to build an empire or so. So we are a small, fine company, and we are very lucky that we have had a bunch of very interesting clients, from bidding for lottery licenses over bidding for fighter jet contracts, IT telecoms, of course. So it's a lot of fun, I must say, and I'm very grateful that I had the opportunity to do this. We have started our business in 2003, so we are in the business for quite a while, and we are operating, we are based in Switzerland and Germany, but we are basically operating globally.
And I've seen you've published a book.
Yes, I've published.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. A tiny little book of 470 pages.
Yeah, it's a giant thing.
It's a monster.
Actually, I didn't realise how big it was. It turned up. So what? Is this a phone directory?
It is.
Absolute beast.
You're right. Well, originally I planned 300 pages, and then it turned up to be a bit more. Maybe I should have spent more time in writing, and then it would have been a bit smaller. Yes. Now it is called the Ultimate Bid and Proposal Compendium, and it basically is a written down version of all the knowledge that we have within CSK. And I think the added value of the book is not the know-how itself, actually. I think everything we have written there is not new. But I think the achievement with this book was that we have managed to put it into a structure that is readable and understandable for everyone, and that the book itself, in terms of tone and how it's written, and I think we have achieved it. We are getting this feedback that it's not dry to read like many other business books. So it's a joy to read.
Well, that's always a good sign for a bid organisation, isn't it? That your book is interesting and good to read.
Oh, absolutely.
Something that's dry and horrible. I haven't got. I'm gonna have to get myself a copy at some point. I'm not very good at reading kind of.
I'll send you one.
Knowledge books. Oh, thank you. But yeah, and when I'm finished with it, I'll make sure I pass it on to someone who'll get some value from it. Me and Jeremy have a bit of an ongoing thing with books because I generally quite like a good read. I quite like a biography of a business person. Jez, you're not a big reader, are you? So I'm trying to convince him.
I have an attention span problem, so I'm more of a video live experience sort of chap, let's say, I guess.
Well, that is in fact the problem of most business books. They are through 200 pages, 400 pages, and you have to read everything. But what we have done is what we are preaching for the bid writers as well. And look at the newspapers. You always have a speaking title, then you have this lead text that tells you the main thing about the chapter. So you can basically read through the document by just reading the lead text, and you get quite a bit out of it.
Yeah. So we're here today to talk about the Virtual Bid and Proposal Summit, or Global Bid and Proposal Summit, depending on it's global now, isn't it? So do you want to give us a quick summary of what it is, what's on offer, what a delegate's going to get out of it?
Sure. It's a global summit. It's over 3 days. We have basically built 3 blocks over these 3 days. It's an Asia Pacific block, it's a European block, and an Americas block. And the idea was to cover the globe, but not having one huge event where you have to spend 10, 15 hours in front of the screen. So we came up with this concept that if you're European, you would you can attend the sessions on Thursday afternoon. You could also attend the American sessions, which are in their morning, so in your afternoon. Or you could, if you want to really get up very early, if you're really an early bird, you could get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and you could watch the American stream as well. Of course, with all the other virtual conferences as well, you can download all the stuff at the end. But we wanted to refrain from having this monster one-day thing because we know that sitting in front of a screen for webinars after 2 or 3 hours, you're just knackered and you've got enough. So we said we split it up over 3 days and have 3 blocks of 4 hours with 2 or 3 streams. And I think that's the ideal concept. In terms of what people get out, we have selected a very broad range of speakers. We are actually very proud that we could attract really, really good speakers. I mean, out of these 40 presentations, I think we have 7 book authors. We have a TED speaker. We have really top people like Andy Bounds, Tom Sant, Jeremy, you are one of the speakers. It's really, really quality.
I wouldn't put Jeremy on the same pedestal.
That's what you have said. No.
I was going to say that was very nice of you, but yeah, not quite.
Have you made him sign a waiver to say he won't swear?
Well, Jeremy, should we talk about the check again?
I'll try not to swear.
I mean it. No, we have a great line of speaker lineup, and I think it's very broad. I mean, we have an Indian guy talking about negotiations. We have Tom Sant. We have someone talking about presenting. I will talk about storyline. We have someone from South Africa. It's extremely broad. Andy Bounds will talk about the communication point of view. We have Sarah Schutte, who will talk about legal aspects. So I think the quality of the presentation makes it. The other thing where we hope to launch a huge success is the networking. I mean, networking over the internet is always a bit of a thing. And we have found a solution on the market that allows the participant of this conference to enter a networking lounge. And you then see the avatar of yourself as a kind of bubble on that screen, in that room. And you can move around with your avatar in the room and talk to other people in the room, other avatars. And as soon as you're closer than an inch on the screen or so, then you're immediately connected through video and audio. So you can immediately talk to each other like we are talking now. And that comes very close to real networking at a conference in the lobby.
I think we're going to have to see how this works, Jeremy, because this could be the solution to our breakfast events.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So for anyone who's not been on the podcast before, we run a series of breakfast events in London, and Jez has been pushing me to make them digital, which is the right thing. But I very much have ended up being webinared out over lockdown, like just bombarded with webinars, and like corporately, which is great. There's a lot more comms from my employer, but equally like there's so much stuff sitting and watching people on the screen. So we set ourselves the task of, right, if we're going to do our breakfast events virtually, the biggest bit of feedback we had was that people enjoyed the quality of the experience. You know, we've got a proper high-grade restaurant that we host it in, good food, good coffee, which is always good for a breakfast event.
It's so important. And coffee in England is especially important.
and the networking. So like, it starts with like half an hour to an hour of networking before and afterwards. And we hadn't really cracked that, so we're going to have to see, Jez, how that goes, because this could be our solution, and people could be seeing our events coming back live in the UK in future.
Right. I mean, that was Mike and I have been talking through since March about what we did. So we had to cancel our last breakfast event. It was going to be on the 25th of March, I think, and we cancelled it a week's notice, quite sadly. And then we've both just been busy, Mike needing to go and secure a bunch of deals for Mace, and me trying to stabilise my business as well as work with my clients. We just didn't have the headspace to put something on. And then your event was launched, and I thought, that guy's got the right idea there. That's interesting. And then subsequently what APMP have done and things. And so how did you differentiate, I guess, Chris? What's different about your event from what's gone before, and how do you think it's going to change the game moving forwards, I guess?
Right. I think one thing is the change from, physical conferences to virtual conferences. And of course, I think there are a couple of aspects of physical conference that are very difficult to match. One is the networking aspect, which is difficult. I think with that solution, we are very close, but it won't be the same because we can't go out, have a beer, get drunk. That's not the same. And also, it's, I think a physical experience is always the more intense experience. However, virtual conferences, of course, they are much cheaper. They are easier to integrate in your daily business. So I think overall, the value is about the same. It's just different. And the third aspect that's probably the most difficult to reach is the fun aspect. That is always difficult to reach in a virtual experience. And I think that will be forever the advantage of a physical conference. And the other question is, how do we differentiate from other virtual conferences? I think there are different concepts around. One is having one day full of stuff. APMP chose to have it over 36 hours or whatever it was. That's one aspect. I talked about that. I think we are different in that respect. The main thing I see is that in our conference, as opposed to most conferences I've seen in our industry, I must say, I've seen other conferences in other industries, but in our industry, most of these conferences were basically on a webinar platform. They were basically a series of webinars plus a couple of links and a little bit of chatting. And today we have the opportunity to use virtual conference platforms. So when you enter our conference, you will actually enter a lobby with everything that you have in a lobby. You have a reception desk, you have banners standing around, you have all the doors to the different rooms, and that's basically the hub in the conference, and you move into the different rooms from there. You also have an exhibitor hall with all the exhibitors, and you have a booth for every exhibitor. It's not just a list of exhibitors and a few buttons, please contact us. It's really a booth, and you can, depending on the setup of the booth, you can talk to the exhibitor live through video, through chat. It's a different experience. And we have this networking that I mentioned before. So I think we have come as close as we can to the feeling of a physical conference, to merge the benefits of a virtual conference and of a physical conference.
And are all your sessions live or some pre-recorded?
Most of them are live.
Yeah,
because that's very few that are pre-recorded, but we have tried to get everyone having a live session.
Because it's something I've noticed talking to my wife. She's involved in events. She's got a marketing agency. And there was a big conference that she was due to go to in Brighton. That's sort of the big thing that web digital marketeers go to every year in the UK. And we were having this discussion about pre-recorded versus live sessions. And of course, interestingly, you've got some panel debates as well, haven't you?
Yes.
Whereas I think there's going to be a bit of a challenge with just, in effect, a website that's got a shed load of pre-recorded sessions in it.
Yeah.
I mean, we found with one recently that we'd got a session together, Mike and I, and then I had a separate one, and both pre-recordings just went live at the start of the conference, in effect. So you lose that kind of Q&A piece.
Absolutely.
And that interaction, or certainly the intensity of it in your time slot. So there were people
definitely
in the time slot, and that was fine, and there was some good interaction going on, apart from I had a client phone me, a really important client, a deal that I really needed to land, sort of the pay the mortgage sort of deal, bloody phoned me just as the Q&A started for our joint session.
Wonderful.
So the whole fucking session. But would happen, wouldn't it? So I think there's something in it needing to be as live as it can be.
Absolutely.
And I recognise, of course, lots and lots of organisations are starting out on this trail, aren't they? And there's a bit of experimentation. Clearly, there were some digital conferences COVID, but no one was really paying that much attention to it. And now,
Right.
suddenly, I mean, we could tell, and I'm sure you've felt, the costs of the platforms for doing this suddenly trebled overnight. It's actually one of the other aspects for Mike and I with our shorter breakfast events of up to a couple of hours, is that the platforms are probably too expensive. I think we'll just end up doing something just with Zoom, the webinar version of Zoom or something, just because the platforms we'd want to use like 800 quid, and it just blows it out the water. We've not got the scale for that. Sorry, go on, Mike.
I was going to say, so I was wondering actually, how have people dealt with or responded to having to pay to attend? Because I guess, so in my industry, I've seen like the SIPs have made their conference virtual and online for free, so charging for purchasing and supply. I've seen kind of the RICS and other big kind of construction related, property related organizations put all their conferences on for free. So how have people responded to the fact that they don't just get free access?
Well, the biggest response I got were lots of registrations. No, I don't think. I think people see immediately when they look at the website and the speakers and so on that this means a lot of investment and that this is a lot of value they get out of it, and that this is not just a free marketing event that they can attend and they will hear lots of TV spots. So I think people see that that is an event where you can learn a lot, where you can meet people, and that is worth money. And if you compare the price value ratio between this one and real life events, you see it's symbolic.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, it does also put a bit of, it puts quite a lot of emphasis on you actually to get it right. Like when people are paying to come to our breakfast events or other stuff, you feel like you've got to get it to a really high quality. And I think it does drive you to do more than just, what's the minimum viable product. So webinars, there's the dog, some webinars and a bit of a chat room which we could have done, right? Jez, we could have done that in March, couldn't we, and launched it. But we really challenged ourselves with actually one of our key kind of goals or value propositions was that it's a high quality event. And it has some social purpose to it, so that's why we always host it in a social enterprise. Which,
right.
The restaurant we host our breakfast events in supports homeless people back into work. So all the chefs and the servers are all formerly homeless. So like we really struggle to find that, but it's interesting. I mean, as soon as there's money behind it and people are paying 20, ours is 20 quid to come for breakfast, it does drive you to really push on the quality, really think about your speakers, really think about the structure of the content. Definitely. How do you get the right balance, get the topics that people are actually going to be interested in, not just the same old stuff rolling out. Here's 30 minutes on how to do an executive summary, and getting that good content. And I think Jez, that's worked well for us, hasn't it, in really pushing us to get the quality up. And it sounds like it's to be similar for the bids and proposals.
Absolutely, no price, no value.
No, I mean the other thing I like with yours, Chris, which was something that we learned. So I think we hosted 5 breakfast events over the course of 18 and 19 and into 20. And we learned through them that how to deal with vendors, and in your case, exhibitors, sponsors, I guess. And so I like the fact you've got a separate channel for, in effect, the exhibitors to, people can dial in to listen to their pitch, as it were, but the actual conference channels for the 3 bits of geography are separate.
Yeah.
And I take it you're but we had to learn how to control our sponsors. So we had just 1 or 2 sponsors per event. We let the sponsors chair sessions at one point, and then learned that wasn't a very good idea. We implemented some rules around they're not actually allowed to directly talk about their product. There was no sort of elevator pitch, etc., in the speeches that they were doing. They needed to, talk something that really take part in the debate in, because ours were largely a speech or an interview and then 2 panel.
Right.
Debates. But the interview was never with the sponsor; it was with someone interesting.
And normally, about 50% outside of the industry, like purposely choosing speakers who would have transferable knowledge and experience, but not from the bidding industry, and that worked well as well. Because I guess the other thing you got to think about, and I know you have, Chris, is getting the balance between There's going to be a bid coordinator who comes along who's got 2 years experience and probably does want to hear some kind of real tactical stuff on how to do bidding.
Mm-hmm.
And there's people who've got 10, 15 years and are kind of running global bid teams who would just be completely turned off if there's a presentation on how to formulate a win theme. So like, you've got to get that balance right, and that is a real challenge. And I don't envy the challenge you've had in getting that sorted for the conference.
Oh, absolutely. But it's interesting if you assign a good speaker and you ask them, do you know someone else? They usually know. And then they give you another one, and then they give you another one. So it's interesting. The first ones are usually the most difficult ones, but then it flows and goes easy.
Yeah. So
it's still a lot of work, but
yeah, I can imagine. I mean, it must be a labour of love. So Chris, just to round off then, so give us a quick elevator pitch. Why should people attend the Global Bid and Proposal Summit?
Wow, elevator pitch. Well, at the end of the day, I think it's, in terms of value for money, when you look at education sessions, it's stunning. I mean, getting 40 presentations, getting the ability to talk to 15 exhibitors, getting to network with people from all over the world in an experience that is very close to a real live conference. For this, depending on when you booked and what kind of person you are, between $50 and $90, that's tremendous value for money. And it's most flexible. If you can't turn up, just download the stuff afterwards.
Love it.
As simple as that.
So what dates the conference is the summit on?
9th, 10th, and 11th of September.
Cool. So if you haven't got your tickets yet, there will be a link somewhere in the video somewhere. So sign up. You get to hear Jeremy again.
Yes.
Along with some great
I'm looking
speakers.
forward to it.
Yeah, he's a good speaker.
I'm building my booth. It is really snazzy, I have to say. I'm really impressed. So we've got a call on Monday, Chris and I, with my marketeer on figuring out how to make that all happen, because it's, there's video stuff in it, there's the linkage to me, there's all sorts. It looks really cool, so I'm excited about that. Well, but thank you for putting it on, Chris, and taking the risk.
My pleasure.
Putting yourself out there, because there's obviously the association, there's events already out there in the world. It's an interesting time. I think you've taken an opportunity to do something a bit different, and actually it's agitated the right behaviours from the association and from others. It's got people to do stuff, so it's great in itself, but it's a nice catalyst to move us on into, I suspect next year is going to be quite interesting.
Oh yes,
yes. And I hope it's a great success for you, and I hope we'll figure out doing something in a different timeline, in a different way, to mix it up too, because our discipline deserves a bit of innovation and something.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us on the
Thanks for having me. It has been a pleasure.
Yeah, on the podcast today, Chris. Thank you.
All right. Take care.
Cheers.